The sands of Egypt are known for their soaring pyramids and golden temples, but tucked away in the sacred city of Abydos, behind the magnificent Temple of Seti I, lies a structure that defies the very timeline of history. It is known as the Osirion, an enigmatic monument constructed not of the typical limestone seen in the New Kingdom, but of massive, stark granite blocks that resemble the megalithic work of much older prehistoric sites. Located approximately 23 meters below the desert surface, the Osirion is an architectural challenge for conventional historians. Its design includes a central island surrounded by a deep moat of water, a feature that was already baffling archaeologists like Flinders Petrie and Margaret Murray when they rediscovered it in 1902. While the official narrative attributes the structure to Pharaoh Seti I, recent studies and scientific anomalies suggest it may be a pre-Diluvian marker, a remnant of a lost epic preserved by the later Egyptians. Today, we go beneath the sands to explore the fossil water that floods these chambers, the geological fissures that connect these stones to the Great Sphinx, and the primordial creation myths that might finally explain why this temple was built in water that has resisted every attempt at removal. When Henry Frankfurt resumed excavations in the 1920s, he encountered a chamber unlike anything else in New Kingdom Egypt. Lined with red granite quarried from Aswan, hundreds of kilometers to the south, the Osirion features stones weighing up to 100 tons each. To put that in perspective, each block is equivalent to roughly 16 full-grown African elephants. Conventional tools of the 19th dynasty, copper chisels and wooden sledges, simply do not account for the precision-cut trenches in the laser-like placement of these colossal blocks. Unlike the decorated halls of Seti I's main temple, the interior of the Osirion is eerily minimal, lacking the hymns and reliefs that typically characterize royal Egyptian construction. Instead, its style echoes the Valley Temple of Khafre at Giza, another monument shrouded in controversy regarding its true age. The site descends directly into the earth, ending in a single chamber without windows or columns, creating an overwhelming sense of isolation and descent. And this is where the problem begins. The 12 enormous granite pillars surrounding the central platform formed squares of stone placed without mortar, a hallmark of advanced engineering that modern stonemasons struggle to replicate, even with diamond-tipped tools. The precision is remarkable. When engineers measured the gaps between these massive blocks in the 1980s, they found tolerances of less than half a millimeter in some places. This level of accuracy is difficult to achieve, even with laser-guided cutting equipment. The joints are so tight that a sheet of paper cannot be inserted between many of the stones. What makes this even more extraordinary is the sheer weight involved. Moving a 100-ton block requires sophisticated understanding of physics, leverage, and material stress. Modern construction crews use hydraulic cranes and computer-calculated load distributions to move such weights. The ancient builders, according to conventional history, had none of these advantages. Yet somehow they transported these monoliths from quarries hundreds of kilometers away, brought them to the site, lowered them 23 meters into the earth, and positioned them with surgical precision. Some researchers have suggested the use of water locks, similar to modern canal systems, to float the stones into position. Others propose elaborate ramp systems or counterweight mechanisms, but none of these theories fully explain how the blocks were fitted together so precisely at such depths, especially considering the chamber would have been filling with water throughout the construction process. But the engineering mystery is nothing compared to what fills the chamber itself. Perhaps the most perplexing secret of the Osirion is its water. In 1925, Frankfurt's team attempted to clear the central channel, but they were limited by the capacity of their steam-powered pumps. Even today, the water behaves in ways that challenge conventional understanding. In 1986, researcher James Westerman began a multi-decade quest to find the water's source. Using pumps capable of removing 500 gallons per minute, his team expected to eventually reveal the floor. They couldn't even make a dent. The water refilled faster than they could remove it, suggesting an underground river with seemingly unlimited flow. Westerman's team conducted a series of increasingly desperate experiments. They tried pumping continuously for 72 hours straight. The water level dropped by less than 6 inches. They increased pump capacity, bringing in industrial equipment used for mine dewatering. The water simply rose faster. They attempted to seal off suspected inlet channels with concrete plugs. The water found new routes, seeping through hairline cracks in the granite that hadn't been visible before. Hydrogeological surveys of the surrounding area revealed no surface water sources capable of supplying this volume. The Nile, several hundred meters away, flows at a higher elevation. Groundwater models of the region predicted relatively modest seepage rates, nothing approaching what the Osirion demonstrates. The water acts as if it's being actively pumped into the structure from below, yet there's no mechanism, ancient or modern, that could produce this effect. Scientific analysis has revealed that this is not Nile water. Geological reports by Dr. James Brooks and Dr. Bahai Isawi suggest the water originates from an ancient aquifer within the Kenna Sand Formation, a layer of fossil water deposited between 5,000 and 10,000 years ago. This water is thousands of years old, trapped underground for millennia before flowing into a structure that might be equally ancient. The chemical signature of this water tells a fascinating story. Isotopic analysis shows deuterium ratios consistent with precipitation that fell during the African humid period, a climatic epoch when the Sahara was green and fertile. This water has been sealed underground since the end of the last ice age, preserved in geological formations that act as natural time capsules. The fact that it's now flowing freely into the Osirion suggests the structure may have been deliberately designed to tap into these ancient reserves. Even more puzzling is the temperature anomaly. While surrounding water stays at roughly 16.9 degrees Celsius, the water inside the Osirion chamber reaches 23.8 degrees Celsius. This appears inconsistent with conventional thermodynamic expectations, indicating that something deep beneath the structure may be heating the water from an undetected source. The implications of this are staggering. Modern geothermal surveys of the area show no volcanic activity, no hot springs, and no natural explanation for a localized heat source of this magnitude. Some researchers have proposed that the granite itself, due to its crystalline structure and mineral composition, may be conducting energy from deep within the Earth's crust. Granite contains quartz crystals, which can generate piezoelectric effects under pressure. Could the immense weight of the structure above be creating subtle electrical currents that produce heat? Others suggest the architectural design creates a natural resonance chamber that amplifies subtle thermal currents. The exact dimensions of the hall, the spacing of the pillars, and the depth of the water might form a system that captures and concentrates geothermal energy in ways we don't yet understand. Ancient cultures worldwide demonstrate sophisticated knowledge of acoustics and resonance. Perhaps they also understood thermal dynamics at a level we're only beginning to rediscover. What remains undisputed is that the Osirion's water defies easy categorization, behaving more like a living system than a static pool. Water samples taken from different depths within the chamber reveal varying mineral compositions, suggesting multiple source points feeding into the structure. Trace elements including calcium, magnesium, and silica appear in concentrations that don't match the surrounding water table. Chemical analysis indicates the presence of dissolved minerals typically found in much deeper aquifers, sometimes at depths exceeding 200 meters. This raises a troubling question. How did ancient builders tap into water sources that modern drilling equipment struggles to reach? The presence of these deep-source minerals suggests a complex underground network of channels and chambers. Geological mapping indicates the Osirion sits atop a natural fault line, a fracture in the bedrock that could serve as a conduit for deep groundwater. But natural fault lines are chaotic, irregular features. The water flow into the Osirion is remarkably consistent and controlled, suggesting human intervention in shaping these natural pathways. Inside the central hall, archaeologists discovered carefully constructed staircases leading down into the dark water. When the water was temporarily pumped down in the 1930s, it was discovered that these stairs do not end. They descend at least 24 feet below the ledge, disappearing into flooded depths that remain inaccessible. Seismic tests suggest the structure continues at least 50 feet further down, with hollow chambers and passages that remain sealed by water researchers cannot remove. The architecture of these submerged passages is equally mysterious. Sonar imaging conducted in the 1990s revealed what appear to be deliberately carved niches and alcoves along the underwater walls. Some of these features align with astronomical orientations, particularly the rising point of Sirius, the star associated with the goddess Isis and the annual flooding of the Nile. Other alignments correspond to the winter solstice sunrise, suggesting the structure served both ritual and astronomical functions. The niches vary in size and depth, with some barely large enough to hold a small statue, while others could accommodate a standing person. Their purpose remains unknown, but their precise geometric arrangement suggests intentional design. Some researchers speculate they once held objects of religious significance, perhaps statues of gods or sacred texts sealed in waterproof containers. Others believe they served as acoustic features designed to modulate the resonance of chanting or musical instruments within the flooded chamber. Is it possible these waters were meant for more than ritual symbolism? James Westerman reported an experience he himself could not explain. After drinking filtered Osirion water, his eyesight, which had been poor since childhood, improved so dramatically he no longer needed corrective glasses. No clinical studies have verified these effects, but this echoes ancient texts describing Abydos as a sacred healing site and accounts from local residents who claimed the water cured ailments like epilepsy and vision loss. Ancient Egyptian medical papyri reference the healing waters of Abydos, describing them as possessing properties that could restore youth and vitality. The Ebers Papyrus, one of the oldest preserved medical documents, mentions water from sacred sites being used in treatments for eye diseases, joint pain, and internal ailments. Whether these claims have any basis in biochemistry or represent purely symbolic healing remains a matter of debate, but the consistency of these accounts across millennia is noteworthy. Modern analysis of the water's mineral content reveals high concentrations of silica and trace amounts of gold and silver particles. Some natural medicine practitioners suggest these minerals could have therapeutic effects, though rigorous scientific testing has never been conducted. The unusual pH balance, slightly alkaline at 7.6, falls within ranges some researchers associate with health benefits, though again, evidence remains anecdotal. To understand whether this design language appears elsewhere, we must leave Abydos and look north to the Giza Plateau and the Great Sphinx. Modern geological data by Manu Safzadeh and Robert M. Schoch suggest the Sphinx was originally a monumental lioness named Mehit, carved thousands of years before the Old Kingdom.
A major geological fissure traverses the rear portion of the Sphinx, extending deep into the bedrock. This physical defect, which splits the monument in two, is believed to have inspired Egypt's earliest set of written language symbols, the split lion hieroglyphs. The frontal lion, known as Gardner F4, and the caudal lion, F22, were used to designate the quality of oil in the First Dynasty, but they also represent the beginning and end of the creative act. This iconography is central to the Memphite creation myth recorded at the Edfu Temple. In this myth, Ptah created the world from the primordial flood, known as Mehit-Wert. The Osirion can be viewed as a megalithic representation of this event, with its island representing the primordial mound, Tatenen, emerging from the floodwaters. The 14 pillars of the Osirion, including sandstone pilasters, may represent the 7 Jaiswu, or creation words, and the 7 Knumu, potter spirits, who shaped reality from the waters of the first time. This architectural code is mirrored in the Sphinx temple, which also features 14 pillars in its central court.
If these monuments are as old as the geology suggests, where did the knowledge to build them come from? The ancient Egyptians documented the existence of afdet, secret chests or chambers stored under the feet of sacred statues. Seismic refraction tomography has located a man-made void, roughly 12 by 9 meters, at a depth of 5 meters beneath the left forepaw of the Sphinx. This anomaly, known as Anomaly A, has never been directly probed. Previously, researchers have identified the jaw sign, a bent rod symbol over the back of the lioness Mehit, as a key or opener for a locked facility, possibly the legendary Hall of Records. The Osirion shares this mysterious subterranean nature. Recent seismic studies have revealed surprising underground structures beneath its central island, hinting at what some researchers describe as an energy modulation system designed for purposes we don't yet understand. The orthodox model dates the Osirion to the 13th century BCE, based on cartouches of Seti I found in the entrance tunnel. However, pharaohs frequently usurped earlier monuments, carving their names over pre-existing structures. Because the Osirion is sunk so deep beneath the footprint of Seti's temple, it is clear the Osirion had to be constructed first. Some researchers suggest the structure dates to the early 4th dynasty or even earlier, as water erosion patterns on the limestone enclosure imply it was built when the region had a much wetter climate, possibly over 12,000 years ago. The L-shaped configuration of Seti I's temple is itself a major clue. Conventional Egyptian temples follow a linear layout, but Seti's temple bends at a 90-degree angle. Experts believe the builders unexpectedly hit the Osirion during construction and were forced to adapt their plans to accommodate the ancient structure already beneath the site. Think about that for a moment. The builders of one of Egypt's most magnificent temples had to completely alter their design because they stumbled upon something far older, something they couldn't move or destroy. The Osirion and the Great Sphinx stand as physical reminders that our history may be much longer and more complex than we have been taught. These are not just tombs or reservoirs, they are technological and symbolic seeds left by a prior civilization. Whether it is the fossil water rising from the Kina sand or the geological fissure that inspired the first hieroglyphs, these monuments force us to confront a level of hydraulic and architectural sophistication that challenges our understanding of the ancient past. As the pumps in Abydos continue their losing battle against the rising tide, the Osirion remains a monument to unanswered questions, a testament to what some call a divine culture that used stone and water to speak across the millennia. The secret is not just what the Osirion is, but when it was built and by whom. What lies in the flooded chambers we cannot reach? What knowledge is encoded in stones we cannot move? And who truly mastered the engineering of the first time? The water continues to rise. The stairs continue to descend into darkness. And after more than a century of excavation, we are no closer to draining the truth from beneath the sands of Abydos. The Osirion guards its secrets well, and perhaps that was always the intention. Some doors, it seems, were never meant to be opened. Some waters were never meant to be drained, and some questions were designed to echo through eternity, waiting for the civilization capable of answering them.